Superman probably has the biggest live-action history of any comic book character, with far more media diversity than any other superhero, appearing in many movies and many television shows, and over the course of that long, now 77-year-long history, the classic Superman suit has been adapted many times, and each in slightly different ways. I've done this before, but not only did we get a new suit from Superman and Lois since then, but also the release of the long-awaited James Gunn Superman movie has given us a new entry for this list. One that is very distinct from the rest. Let's see where it places on this list. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, and become a member in the Noble tier or above for early access to certain videos. Let me know your favorite Superman suit in the comments, and maybe even your least favorite, and let's begin. Now, there are a few suits that you might have included on this list that I decided to exclude. For one, there are suits that don't quite qualify as a suit, which excludes the red jacket and blue shirt combo from Smallville, or the later red jacket from Smallville. Other suits that are meant to be an alternate take on Superman, like the evil Superman from the Superboy show, or the suits that are based on the black suit. The black suit simply isn't the same design. I can't exactly compare a black Superman suit on the same basis as the rest, because color is going to be an extremely important factor, but also because the best black suit is never going to be as good as the best regular suit, in my opinion. What I can do, however, is compare the black suits to each other, in which case I put the black suit from Lois and Clark at last. It's a bit low quality, it's not the best design, the logo looks a bit off, the color may be blue, which doesn't look great, but it is good for the 1990s, that's for sure. Next up, and it was pretty close, it's the black suit from Smallville. As while it does look cool, it's a clear deviation from the comics, being a black t-shirt with a white Superman logo under a long black trench coat and then regular jeans. It worked for the mid-2000s TV show, but would be considered very disappointing anywhere else. Case in point, a mid-2010s TV show definitely took the task more seriously. The black suit worn by Tyler Hoechlin in Elseworlds was definitely an upgrade over his regular suit. The color scheme fits the design a lot better. I like the material of the suit. It looks pretty form-fitting and comfortable, but at the same time, I do understand the complaint of the suit looking a bit cheap, the cape clasp looking a bit odd, and this particular Superman looking a bit too small. Maybe this version needed a bit of padding, but still, this suit is definitely pretty good for what it was. The best adaptation of the black suit is the DCEU version, which, more so than almost any other DCEU suit, takes advantage of the overcomplicated design these suits all have. I say that because since it's black, it could hide those details and especially the fake muscles simply by being that color. The BVS suit, for instance, I judged based on the classic suit, and thus the darkness is a negative, while the super bright suit of Justice League leaves nothing to the imagination. You see every single little over-designed detail, every fake muscle. I'll get back to both, but this suit has the luxury of being based on the black suit. It definitely still does look a bit over-designed and full of fake muscles. It's just less noticeable, and thus the best black suit so far. However, because of all of that over-designed detail and the fake muscles, which I really don't like, I don't think it should be too difficult to outdo this suit with a new, different black suit. Alright, so the black suits out of the way, we are left with 21 suits over the last 77 years, and one thing I'll say is that suits have generally gotten better over time, and this list will be reflective of that. Just because a suit was good for its time does not mean it deserves to be higher on the list, it just means that it maybe deserves more credit, and I'll be more lenient in the commentary. The actual ranking, however, will not be affected by that bias. The very bottom of this list is also the most unusual inclusion. Nicolas Cage was set to star as a frankly miscast Superman in the 90s, for which a suit was made. That in and of itself would definitely not put it on this list, except that version of Superman appeared, for whatever reason, in The Flash, made entirely out of CGI, but identical to the behind-the-scenes suit, which is frankly pretty terrible. It takes the design concepts of the 90s Batman movies of a rubber or plastic suit with very visible muscle definition, a design concept that is extremely dated. It also very much limits the actor's movement. I do not like it. Generally speaking, muscle padding that is a bit too visible is a negative, but muscle definition actually built into the physical suit is something that I adamantly dislike, and this one does it worse than any other. Add to that a dark blue, which I don't generally prefer over a light blue, and a god-awful attempt at the trunks that turned into tidy reddies, and we have the worst Superman suit in live-action history. Slightly more existent than the cancelled Superman movie is a cancelled Superman TV show from the 1960s, for which a pilot and therefore a suit was created. The suit is both a bit old and a bit cheap. The skin-tight spandex look isn't really pulled off very well on the actor. The trunks are good, but the logo has a pretty bad looking shape, and there's no color to base it off on, which is weird because this is from the 1960s where color TV was already a thing for around a decade, so it's weird that there is no color. That said, the show is from the 60s and never got made, so it's pretty much as good as expected. That Superboy suit is pretty similar to the George Reeves suit from The Adventures of Superman from the 1950s, but this suit is pretty much better in every way. It fits the actor better, the trunks being a bit larger works better, and there's color, including pretty great shades of blue and red. However, the logo still pretty much sucks, and the placement on the torso is a bit weird, and like that Superboy suit, which I didn't mention, the way the cape is hanging off the suit is a bit unusual, hanging off the back and not at all visible from the front, which looks a bit weird from the front, but it looks awful from the back. All that said, those other suits being as old as they are isn't exactly the best excuse, because there is an even older suit that I like a bit better, worn by Kirk Alyn in the 1948 serial. This is a bit more of a stylized design that I quite like, specifically the logo, which, while small, looks pretty cool. The suit material is good for the time, but the suit is also really tight to a point that it is not very flattering. Still, between the logo and especially the placement of the cape, this is certainly better than the later George Reeves suit, and I'd say for 1948 and Superman's first live-action outing, this is actually pretty fantastic. Jumping to the 1990s, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, gave us a pretty unique Superman suit, using the skin-tight spandex approach, which typically does work well, but also has a ceiling for how good it could look because it can come off as a bit cheap. The suit also enlarges the logo to a staggering degree and gives Superman a much darker shade of blue, which, while not my favorite, is executed pretty well here, alongside really nice shades of yellow and red. I'm sure if I was watching the show in the 1990s, I probably wouldn't have any complaints. The suit works for what it was. The very worst of all the modern day suits for me is the BVS suit worn by Henry Cavill. The DCU suits are unique in their design concepts, being probably the most expensive and high quality suit production wise, but it just goes to show that just because something is more expensive doesn't make it better. There's the color scheme, which is highly indicative of the failings of the DCU Superman. It's just too damn dark. I do not like the shade of blue, red, or even yellow. They don't contrast each other very well. It doesn't pop. The yellow is barely visible. The suit is also way too over designed, and I really do not like the fake muscles. They're just kind of absurd looking. I generally have issues with the DCU suits, but especially this one. It's weird because the Man of Steel suit fits him better, it looks better, the colors are better, it's less over designed. They made it worse in every single way for this suit. And in BVS, Superman just doesn't really look like Superman very much. Around the same time, in fact in the same year, just a few months later, we had another live action Superman who looked a lot better in comparison despite wearing a far cheaper suit. The original CW Superman suit isn't very flattering to Tyler Hoechlin, making him look smaller than he is. The belt placement and its shape always looked off to me. The cape clasps were controversial. I personally don't mind, but I do get it. I do prefer it without them. All that said, the suit simply outdid the DCU version by being more charming. It's a lot more charming. It's more down to earth, less over designed, and generally, I was happy with this being the CW Superman suit. Thankfully, he did get an upgrade later, but even at the time, this is something I liked more. It was pretty clear to me in 2016 and onwards that I prefer a Superman suit to be a bit more simple and not the overcomplicated design that the DCEU version had. That said, I can't in good conscience put the Arrowverse suit above the suit from Justice League that came a year later. The suit is basically the same as the BVS suit, but with a corrected color scheme. I love the shade of blue they went for. Superman really pops in this movie, which is great. However, as previously alluded to, the brightness of this suit actually brings out a lot of its major flaws. It's so damn over-designed, chock full of ugly muscle definitions and little unnecessary design elements, all of which are easier to see than ever because of the brightness of the suit. I think, like the Batfleck suit, this was never really meant to be seen under these bright lights, but still the color scheme is pretty great, the production quality is high, and I guess it is better than every suit we've gone over so far. In the early 1990s, there was a Superboy show that aesthetically feels like it's a prequel to the Superman movies of the 1970s and 80s, as the suit is pretty much identical to the Chris Reeves suit. It's just a little change here and there that would make it different on the list. There are two Superboy suits, one of which, this one, I'm putting lower than the Chris Reeves suit because while it's pretty much identical, the logo is a bit different, it's kind of skewed to the side, and it doesn't fit the actor quite as much. However, there is another Superboy suit from later that I actually like more than the Chris Reeves suit. For that, however, the Chris Reeves suit is definitely next. An absolute classic, the Chris Reeve Superman suit is one that I doubt anyone complained about at the time. It's got the perfect color scheme, a simple comic accurate design, and fits Chris Reeve really well. That said, with the benefit of decades of advancement in costume technology, there are better materials than spandex to adapt the Superman suit ideally. This does look a little bit cheap and outdated. Also, the S being as squiggly as it is something that I don't love, and the shape of the trunks are a bit too much like underwear, not enough actual trunks. So while this is a classic, I do not love it. As previously alluded to, there was another Superboy suit that I actually like a little bit more than the Chris Reeve suit it's based on. The one and only difference is in the logo, which is very straight and flat, which I definitely like more. All things considered, this is the best execution of a spandex-based classic Superman suit, even to the point where it fits the actor really well. Tyler Hoechlin's Superman had a surprising amount of suits over the course of the 4 seasons of Superman and Lois, but my least favorite of them, even though it is still pretty good, is his newest one, the one from season 4. It does have a really nice fabric. I think it may be the perfect fabric for a Superman design. It has a generally nice design. The red always pops, the logo looks good as it protrudes from the suit, and the muscle padding, while there is some, is less noticeable, but that's also because the suit is really dark. It's kind of an adaptation of the black suit because he comes back to life in this season and then wears this, but also because it's not a direct adaptation of the black suit and is technically still blue. I have to judge it based on that, and based on that, it is an extraordinarily dark shade of blue that verges on black. It's still a great looking design and it fit the season really well, but because of that, it's my least favorite of Tyler Hoechlin's Superman and Lois suits. The previous Superman and Lois suit from season 3 is basically the exact same thing, but with a lighter shade of blue. It does make the muscle design, which I do not love, a bit more visible, but if I had to choose between the visible muscle design and the blue that verges on black, I will choose the lighter blue. It also comes with a really nice shade of red. Again, the cape really pops, and the newly added logo, which is better than the previous suit from before that, protruding a bit, looks great. I think generally speaking, this is a good suit. It just so happens that I don't like it as much as what came before. The original Superman and Lois suit I think is still the best, or at least better than his prime suits, because while the logo does look a little flat and blends in with it not popping very much, there is no muscle design, which is a huge plus. Or rather, if there is a muscle design, it's so subtle that you can argue it doesn't really look like that. It's just a part of the suit. The red of the cape pops really well. The fabric is pretty much perfect for a Superman suit, and while initially there was too much padding that made the suit or his body look a little bit too big for his head, that's something that they did later fix. The blue is very dark, which is not my preference, but I think this suit maybe pulls it off better than almost any other suit in Superman live action history. I say almost when it comes to that color scheme because I think the suit that pulls it off the best is the Man of Steel suit, or rather it's a more muted color scheme, less dark. I'm not sure where they went wrong after this, but the Man of Steel suit is the highest production quality suit on this list. It looks the most expensive and the most efficient, like it was made exactly to Henry Cavill's proportions, and somehow, despite being whatever hard material it is, looks like it kind of is skin tight. The muscle design is subtle and effective, the S logo looks great, the suit is miles better than any other Superman suit that he would go on to wear. So what's the drawback? Well, the blue is too muted, the yellow is barely noticeable, and there's no trunks, leaving not enough to break up the midsection. This is a pretty fantastic reinvention of the Superman suit, but there are better suits that simply didn't reinvent the suit. The Superman Returns suit is pretty much the opposite of the Man of Steel suit. Super simple design on a spandex type skin tight material with a small logo, really nice light blue, weirdly dark red, and trunks. I generally really like the suit's materials, shades of blue and yellow, the inclusion of the yellow belt and trunks, but I think the suit definitely needed a bit of an update, which would enlarge the tiny logo, make the trunks look more like trunks and less like underwear, and brighten the shade of red. As a kid, however, this was my live action Superman. I don't remember having any complaints with it at the time, so I think this suit does a lot of things well, and I think it works for what it was. I think they kind of screwed up a bit in Superman and Lois because while there was the main dark trunkless suit, the show started off right off the bat by showing us one that is the polar opposite, and frankly, a lot better. The light shade of blue is perfect, and alongside this red and yellow, the color scheme is pretty much perfect. I think Tyler pulls off the spandex better than any actor ever has, and while there is a bit of a muscle design, it's clearly under the suit, which if you're going to put in some muscle to make Superman look bigger, it should definitely be under the suit as padding, definitely not in the suit's design. design. I just love the lighter blue and this simple design. Even if the production value is clearly lower, it doesn't really need to be higher than this. I think this is a perfect live action adaptation of the Fleischer suit, but obviously it is not a perfect adaptation of the classic Superman suit. Since it's the color scheme of the Man of Steel suit that I think is its biggest downfall, obviously that would mean that his appearance in Black Adam, which is basically I think the same suit but with a updated color scheme to make it brighter, that would definitely have to place it higher on the list. It is still a reinvention of the Superman suit. There are a lot of things about it that are just not what I would prefer. There's no trunks. It is, I think, too high production value and a bit overcomplicated design-wise, but certainly not nearly as overcomplicated as the BVS or Justice League suit, so the brighter colors definitely fitted a lot better. Somehow, the CW made some of the best live-action Superman suits, including a practically perfect adaptation of the Kingdom Come suit, which uses maybe the best possible material, great light shades of red and blue, a really nice looking logo, high production value but not too high, while sticking to a simple, uncomplicated design that for one made the other CW Superman look a lot worse in comparison, but also outdid the seemingly higher budget movies at the time. So what is the drawback here if it's so great? Well, for one, it is based on the Kingdom Come suit and the logo has black in it. There is no yellow on the suit, so it was never going to be the perfect Superman suit. But also there is a bit of muscle padding under that is sometimes noticeable, sometimes not. It is padding rather than on the design of the suit itself, so that's a lot more reasonable. But obviously this is not a perfect Superman suit, even if it can be the basis for one. But when it debuted, it was the best Superman suit we got so far. Now this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion because there was a time when this suit was trashed online, but I absolutely love the DCU Superman suit. It gets so many things right that I prefer in a Superman suit, which is subjective, but that's my list. It's just what I prefer. A really nice shade of light blue combined with a nice red and a healthy amount of yellow. There's more yellow on the suit than I think any other Superman suit ever, which I love. There's the yellow outline, obviously inside the logo, the yellow belt, and then the yellow on the cape, which is an inclusion that I love. There's the trunks that I think are pulled off better than any other live action suit ever. There's zero muscle padding or muscle design in the suit, which I love, and the suit somehow looks both high quality and comfortable, finding a balance between the skin tight but also functional. Like I alluded to, I think these are the best live action Superman trunks, being just large enough to no longer look like underwear, but not too large that it takes over the suit. And with it being there alongside the yellow belt, it breaks up the blue of the suit so nicely. It just comes together to make a Superman that is so colorful, that pops with every single background. Even if the background is in and of itself colorful, he just pops no matter what. That said, the suit is definitely not perfect. It has some unnecessary additional line patterns throughout. The yellow verges a bit too much on orange, especially inside the logo, and the collar, well, I don't actually have a problem with it, but I think maybe he'd look better without it. Like the Kingdom Come suit, I think this suit could be used to create the perfect Superman suit, because with all the minor issues I have with all the best Superman suits out there, and how some of them are not based on the classic, they're based on like the Kingdom Come or Fleischer suits, I don't think there's ever been a perfect adaptation of the classic Superman suit, but I think the DCU definitely has the best opportunity to do that. You take this suit and make minor changes here and there throughout the DCU, and I think the Superman can end up with the perfect classic Superman adaptation in live action. That said, I think the best suit we've ever gotten from Superman still is from Crisis on Infinite Earths, with the Brandon Routh Warren post-Crisis suit, which is essentially identical to the Kingdom Come suit, but with the background of the logo and presumably the belt being changed from black to yellow, which not only makes for a far nicer color scheme, but obviously is more classically Superman. We never really got a good look at this version, but with it being so close to the original, we can imagine what it would look like. And yeah, the minimal changes are enough to put this suit over the top to remain in the top spot despite the newest suits. And I think it's the closest to a perfect live action Superman suit we've gotten. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. What is your favorite Superman suit? And thanks so much for watching.